intro to today's video just because things have really been really out of order. For me, I mean, you guys probably won't notice, but I'm gonna try my best for you guys not to notice. So this video, I actually recorded way before I installed the headers, probably like, it was a while. And then the rolling the Fenders clips that I'm gonna show in there, those were also way before this because number one, I had to roll the Fenders before I did my alignment, well, the trailing arm bushings and then alignment because I wanted to make sure everything cleared. So Fenders rolled first, super ball tires, which I did that off camera. I got new tires for the rears because a bad alignment tore up the rears. So camber doesn't kill tires. I mean, it does over time, but toe is what really kills tires. Anyway, let's get on to the video. Here is what I did prior to installing the headers, and again, I'm just really trying to keep you guys up to date with what I'm doing with this car, the build, and just be as involved as possible. I'm trying my best. This is me catching up. Enjoy. So it's getting a little dark, but the lighting's not terrible. So I just want to show you guys what he did. I don't know if I'll put this in the video, but we got before, I couldn't even fit a finger up here. We got a whole finger of clearance now. As you can see, I rubbed pretty good through the tire. So the reason I didn't roll these myself, I have a Fender roller, but I actually didn't know this. And again, good thing I didn't try it myself because on E46s, I guess there's some sort of glue in between the this little, basically, like, I don't even know what you'd call it, this little fold right here in between there sits a bunch of glue and whatnot, and even like a bunch of dirt and debris gets stuck in there. So basically what he had to do to actually get a good roll rather than pull it is scrape it all out. He was in there with a pick going at it for a while, just scraping everything out so he could finally get it nice and rolled, which, yeah, I got a good, I'd say like half an inch more clearance. I don't know about half an inch, but no, that's definitely half an inch. A whole finger's worth of clearance. Which I didn't have before. Like, this was like nail tight before, obviously. Just eating away at my tire. What's going on, guys? I apologize for the terrible lighting. Just haven't been able to do much with this garage in the short time I'm staying here. But anyway, without further ado, today we're gonna be installing some DRIFTTEC E46 and E36, and I think even E30 compatible DRIFTTEC toe brackets, or retrailing arm brackets, whatever you want to call them. And here are our REVSHIFT E46 M3. Well, again, they're compatible, I'm pretty sure, with E30, E36, and E46. They're all very similar. I'm pretty sure I'm running these same exact bushings on my E36. So yeah, it's actually pretty simple process. It's literally all 18 mil bolts. Here are your basic tools. Literally just breaker bar with 18 mil, ratchet, half drive 3/8. A wrench would be good too, but I have a bunch of ratchets, so why not use them? And the only kind of specialty thing is I'm using a Schwaben rear trailing arm bushing puller, which this thing saved me a ton of time on the E36. So I highly, highly recommend it. I don't think it was crazy expensive, but I mean, if you really just don't have the time or don't want to spend the money, you could just rent a generic universal trailing arm, well, or just bushing puller in general, from like AutoZone or Advanced Auto, something like that. They should work. Don't quote me on that, I've never tried them, but they're pretty universal. They have a bunch of sizes, so I'm gonna assume they work. But this is Old Faithful right here for me. This has worked countless number of times and saves me a ton of time. I love it. Pretty sure I got it from ECS Tuning back in the day, but I think FCP Euro might also sell it. Don't quote me on that, but I know ECS Tuning has it for sure. But without further ado, let's get started. So go ahead and break these guys loose. So one thing I forgot to mention, make sure you get yourself a Sharpie, or well, what would work probably best is a paint marker, but I got myself a silver Sharpie. It should be distinct enough to see, just to mark where your trailing arm bracket was last placed. But I honestly might have to just eye this one, because looking at this bracket, this is actually way just bigger all around. Like, yeah, it's just way bigger than the OEM one. All the adjustment, and then just its thickness in general, it's way beefier, as you can see. Like, this is pretty small, so the whole bracket in general is just a lot beefier, so marking it might actually not work, but we're gonna try our best here, because we're gonna have to drive this thing like 20 minutes to the alignment place. So I want my alignment to be okay, just drivable at least, so we could get there. So main reason I'm doing this, not only because the bushing is clapped out, I actually recently found that out, which led me to want to do all this, but the last time I tried to get this thing aligned, trying to zero out most of the negative camber I gained from lowering it, we actually maxed out the toe brackets, so this was actually, it's turned into a necessity. But I didn't want to do keep having to tear this apart, so I wanted to do everything all at once. So I bought not only the bushings, but I bought the toe brackets, and here we are. And once you have released these 3 bolts, your trailing arm will come down like so. And then what you're going to want to do for some extra clearance is take off this little nut that goes to your shock absorber, which is also an 18 mil. Would have probably been a good idea to loosen this before we loosen the trailing arm, but we're already here. I got it anyway. There it is. Where she went. And now what we're going to go ahead and do is remove our actual bracket. Was able to wiggle the bolts out. There's our OEM bracket. So here you have your OEM, and here's DRIFTTEC. It's crazy how much beefier the DRIFTTEC one is, and how much more adjustment you got. Look at that, OEM, DRIFTTEC. If we put it side by side, just look at that. Way beefier, way more adjustment. It's gonna be awesome. And we're gonna go ahead and fit our Schwaben trailing arm before. Up the middle, tight down here. So after a little bit of beating around this little lip on the OEM bushing with a flathead and a hammer, and a little bit of PB Blaster magic, it finally came out, and I'll show you guys exactly where I placed the bushing puller. But she's coming, slowly but surely. She's actually coming now. There you go. The best freaking tool ever. These OEM ones are always a pain in the ass. I despise them. And there is our OEM bushing. So, again, intact. It's not terrible. Inside was a little worn. I mean, the outside that happened right now from pulling it, but it's definitely seen better days. What you're gonna do, go ahead and clean it up with a wire brush. It's not a crazy rough wire brush. It's mostly actually, all the stuff is coming off. It's mostly just road grime. And get a rag, just clean it up. I'm gonna go ahead and get in there with some sandpaper. And if any surface rust that might be present. Here we have our bushings. Don't go on any specific side. Then you're gonna get your pin, grease it up. And she's nice and greased up. And installation is much easier than removal. Don't need to do no crazy hammering or pulling, and just feel around, make sure everything's even, and then you can start the process of putting everything back together. So we got our DRIFTTEC rear trailing arm bushing bracket, which actually did come with its own hardware, which is awesome. Slide them on like so. Putting the bolt in here is kind of a pain. I don't have much room, but it's really important to me that I get into an orientation where when we're done, I can torque the nut and not the actual bolt. And then you get on your phone and find some torque specs, which I got, yo, don't worry. So, per the Bentley manual and real OEM as my references, here, I don't know if you can see. Let's see. Right here for that rear trailing arm bracket bolt, it states 81 foot-pounds. There it is right there, it shows a little red arrow. 81 foot-pounds or 110 Newton meters. That will be our torque. Come to find out, the new hardware is no longer 18 mil. It is a 19 millimeter. Slap that on there. Before we call it quits here, I need to slide these wires back under. Bracket. Alright, well, that's together. Now let's get this whole assembly back together. But off the bat, already super tight. That's awesome. And now it's simply just reverse of what we just did. And I'll slowly show you guys the process. So after a bunch of wrestling these bolts, finally got them in. Again, don't jack it up too much because it's gonna throw it off center. Just jack it up a little bit just to help you out with the weight, and then you're gonna have to kind of wrestle it up there yourself to line the bolts up. Hand thread them because it's, again, it's really easy to throw this off center, and obviously you don't center the bolts, you're gonna strip them if you send them in. So be careful with that. Do not strip them. I mean, cross thread them, same thing, whatever. And now, I mean, we're just gonna, way more adjustment, but yeah. Now we're just gonna eyeball, not really eyeball, but try to look for my markings, which obviously, again, this this is way beefier than stock, so it blocks all the markings I just made. But if you're still using the stock brackets, you'll be fine. You should be able to use your markings that you made. No worries. But in my case, I might just have to throw the wheel on and eyeball the alignment. I'm gonna go for more toe in because obviously that's way safer to drive with toe in than toe out, in my opinion. Yeah, I'm gonna do a little time lapse. Now we're going to go ahead and torque everything. These 3 bolts that hold the actual rear trailing arm bushing bracket are going to be torqued to 57 foot-pounds, and we can't forget about our strut torques to 74 foot-pounds, and it must be in the loaded position, which is why I have the jack under there. So first we're going to do 57 foot-pounds on these 3 and 74 on the shock absorber.